Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and it is February 24th, 2020. Yes, a day ago I turned 31 years old. I'm now a 30-something. Turning 30 is an interesting experience, really. Turning 31, more interesting still. Last year for me, and for those of you who watch these vlogs know, that it was a very, very good year. Within 3 weeks of turning 30, I was able to completely turn my life around, so to speak. I'd kind of been stagnating for 5 years by that point. But I was able to turn it all around, and everything's going pretty good. And that does show you that you never really want to give up on life. You don't want to just get the mindset that you're never going to succeed. Because you never know when you might get a chance to finally do something worthwhile. Or you might find that good job and actually start getting things cranked out pretty well. You've got to constantly keep up the mindset that no matter how many setbacks you get, it's not the end of the world. It's very easy to feel that way. It's sort of like the idea, there's a Cyphus Cain quote of something about where, when your mind is filled with doubt, run in little circles and wave your arms and shout. It's very easy to do that when something bad happens, or a lot of bad things happen. But you really got to try to keep your cool as much as possible, or at the very least just sort of maintain or endure or slog through or outlast. None of that sounds really inspirational. It's like if something bad happens, just outlast it. It's like, well, what does that mean? Well, that means you just put one foot in front of the other. But if you do that, you can eventually outlast whatever bad thing happened and turn things around. Which I was able to do. And now at age 31, my life is humming along pretty well. There's been one or two setbacks this year. We got off to a not very good start, but things are still going on. And, don't let yourself stagnate. I think that's one of the things that it's very easy to do these days. It's very easy just to do the same thing over and over again every day without really trying to do anything different. You can get very comfortable in that regard. But it's sort of a false comfort, so to speak. You always want to try to improve yourself in some way. You always want to try to move forward with your life in some way, because ultimately, no matter how difficult or how nerve-wracking that might be, you'll ultimately end up being much happier for it. Stagnation is easy, but it's not good. It's sort of like the idea of blue shirt Picard versus red shirt Picard. Blue shirt Picard might have some security, but he's probably very, very miserable. Whereas red shirt Picard, well, he's got a lot of responsibilities, he's got a lot of danger he's got to face, but he's a lot happier for it. Life isn't easy. That's one thing I've learned after 31 years of being alive. Life isn't easy, but it's not so hard that it's impossible. For every setback you get, you can always come back for it and potentially come back better than you were when you started. And that's just one thing that's one thing that I don't know if I can really impart it in words, but it's one thing that if you really look at your experiences in life, that's generally how things can potentially work out. Now, that's how it's worked out for me. It might not work out for everyone, but for me, I've had, bad days, bad weeks, bad years, but I've been able to come back from it. Last year, I came out of 5 years of complete and total stagnation, depression, sadness, and all the rest. And really, in less than a year, I was able to completely turn everything around. And when you do that, or when I did that, I should say, a lot of these little issues that crop up in life, they don't seem so earth-shattering as they once did. I don't know if that's experience or it's something I learned. It could be a bit of both. But one thing you'll learn in life, depending on, if you can see it, is that it's never really the end of the world. Now, it can be. It can be. I'm not going to say never, but usually it's not the end of the world, whatever it is. You can usually recover from it. And try to keep your head, because if you don't keep your head, you can miss opportunities to turn things around faster. Or you can just miss opportunities that can make things better faster. So always just keep that in mind. Don't let a setback completely ruin everything. And when it comes to life, you need to have... Looking on the bright side is something people really say. That it's one of those instances where, look on the bright side. Well, there is no bright side. Well, sometimes there can be. In fact, in my life at least, a lot of times there could be a bright side to be found. And if you look for that bright side, you can potentially be a lot happier for it. Life isn't easy. It's a giant cauldron of difficulty filled with all sorts of things that happen. But if you work hard enough, you can eventually find happiness. Happiness is actually an interesting concept in and of itself. Now, for me, happiness found via material goods is something I never really was able to do. I'm not happy buying a AK or a Ruger PC carbine. Oh yeah, there's going to be a Ruger PC carbine video. Got that for my personal birthday present. That's worth coming. But it doesn't make me happy just to have a PC carbine. I have greater things that I aspire to. When it comes to life, even though you're working hard and stuff like that, you need to have something to aspire to, something greater than just making money or getting a promotion or anything material. There needs to be something that defines you outside of your job or daily tasks. And it needs to be something that defines you outside of material goods or media properties or something like that. There needs to be that one thing that makes you you, so to speak. It's just one of those aspects of life that it's difficult to do, but will make you much happier in the long run. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we've gotten all the philosophical crap out of the way for today. So now, reviews that are coming up, ladies and gentlemen. What we got is the following. We've got, this week, Dawn of the Jedi, Into the Void. That is one of the last EU novels ever written. It is written by Tim Levin, who is a writer of some renown, but he's not that great in my opinion. He did good in this one, but he just comes off as a bit, shall we say, generic. And that's not really a problem, but I've read a number of his books, and none of them are particularly amazing. Really, Dawn of the Jedi, Into the Void is one of his best books that I've read. He certainly knows Steve Perry. And sorry, Tim Levin, but Steve Perry can write better than you. But anyway, that's coming out this week. I don't think I'm going to be able to get any other videos done this week. There's still going to be the live stream of Doom 2016. The next week, I'm going to try to get Aeon Wrath of Ruin out. I've actually had the footage sitting on my hard drive for over a month now. Just haven't had a chance to get to it. Doom Eternal is going to be done literally within a week, but it's just going to be more of a first impressions. I've got plans for more Doom Eternal stuff down the line. I'm, of course, going to live stream that quite a bit, actually. But for the Doom Eternal review, just going to be about maybe 10 minutes explaining the high notes and things of that nature. Let's see. What I want to do in terms of book reviews, though, is I have a lot of book reviews planned, but really getting to all of them is going to take a little while. Basically, I want to get Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void done this week, and then I want to basically have 2 different book review series going on. I'm going to try to get 2 out each month again. 2 final Star Wars books, and 2 new Aliens books. Because I actually ended up binge reading a lot of final Star Wars books and the Aliens books, and really want to talk about them because they're very interesting. The final Star Wars books released before 2014, because that's when Disney killed the EU, most of them have been pretty good. I do intend to try to get Shadow Games out soon enough. I'm not really sure when that's going to be. Shadow Games is the Dash Rendar novel. Not very good. Sadly, there's a lot of missed potential there. That is actually a Steve Perry novel. Not one of his best, unfortunately. But it's not bad. It's filler, and that's why it's not very good. But there's so much more that could have been done with Dash Rendar than what was done in the novel. I recently just finished James A. Corey, the Expanse guy, wrote one of the last Star Wars novels ever. I think it's the last Star Wars novel ever. Empire and Rebellion, Honor Amongst Thieves. It is actually in my top 20 EU novels. It's that good. I literally made the book last a week, which is a very long time for me when it comes to books, especially books I like. It was just so good, I couldn't just read it. I had to just take a step back. It's a Han Solo adventure. It introduces a new female character called Scarlet Hark, who is really cool. And it's so good. It's so good. Like, the plot is so entertaining. Like, the characters are... It's one of the best. And, that the EU ended on a high note with that one. I also ended up reading all of the new Aliens books. They're called Alien books now because, well, whatever. I think they were only released to really cash in on the popularity of the game and possibly Alien Covenant. There are 3 books. Let's see if I can remember them off the top of my head. One was River of Pain, Sea of Sorrows, and Out of the Shadows. I think I got the whole order wrong. Sea of Shadows is the first one, written by Tim Levin. It is an entirely pointless book that actually would be good had it not been... I'm assuming executive meddling on this one, because the book is written in such a way that you don't need Ripley in the time between Alien and Aliens. That doesn't make any sense. And the ending is shit because of that. Sort of. It's half shit. It's like the part with Ripley to explain why she doesn't remember it. It's lazy ass writing 101. Whereas the actual new characters, it's good. It's just like the book's pointless because you know what's going to happen at the end, but with the characters that are new, it's like it's annoying. The next book, Sea of Sorrows, takes place after Alien Resurrection because that's how you do trilogies. It's good, but not great. It's also kind of pointless too, because nothing really happens with that. Because the timeline jumps around like you wouldn't believe. It's good but not great, but I still recommend it. That's basically the whole trilogy right there in a nutshell. It's good but not great, but you might want to read it if you're an Aliens fan. I enjoyed it, but nothing much happens in it. The one problem with Sea of Sorrows is it introduces empathy powers for one of the characters. Then after that, you've got River of Pain, which is a prequel to Aliens, which is another pointless book because you know what's going to happen, but there is a few twists here and there. It's perfectly competent, but that's about all I can say it is. It's perfectly competent. There's already a comic book, which, here's the crazy part. Whoever wrote it, because I don't remember who wrote it at the moment, must have read the Newt's Tale comic, because it actually follows it pretty closely. And since it's a foregone conclusion, they do include Newt's brother's death, where he actually fights a xenomorph and, shoots it with a pistol and immediately gets acid splash. But I still find that to be a particularly honorable death. And it's in the book, so that's pretty cool. And the last book in the Alien reboot was Cold Harbor, Cold something. It's Cold something. Alien Cold something. I can't remember exactly. It's a generic title. And it's a generic story of, you got the corrupt corporate guy, you've got a bunch of infighting and intrigue on a space station with xenomorphs. It's still pretty bloody well written, even if it's something we've seen a million times. I was glad I was reading it, and it did keep... One of the things I love about the Alien franchise, or at least the novels, is it does keep you guessing who's going to be alive at the end. And not all... The plots aren't 100% predictable, which I really, really like. And the story had good enough characters. The thing about the new Alien books is they've got good characters. One of the big problems I have when it comes to finding books these days is all the characters are shit. But those books, the new Aliens books, while not the best, have good characters, and therefore it's compelling. I also ended up rereading the original Aliens novels by Steve Perry, and also Aliens Genocide by David Bischoff, or however the hell you pronounce his last name. Those still hold up. Oh my good God, those books are still good, even to this day. If you have not read them, read them. Earth High, rather. Nightmare Asylum, and The Female War. And finally, Genocide. So good. So good. So good. It's like, it isn't 100% night and day difference between the original Aliens novels and the new Alien novels, but there's a definite quality jump with the original Aliens novels. There's also another book I recommend called Into the Sea of Stars by William Forstchen. It is a horribly obscure book that's really good. It also had really good characters. I don't really want to spoil too much about it, but basically it takes place 1,000 years after World War III. It's a very old science fiction book. In the year 2018, the first space habitat was created. I remember that. And, it takes place 1,000 years after... It takes place in, 3080 something. And humanity has just, recolonized the Earth, but shortly before World War III, a bunch of ships left. And of course, some of them were from the Soviet Union. You can tell how old it is with that. And it's a cool little exploration of like different space cultures and stuff like that. The characters are just a bunch of, this is before college professors became let's get some muscle over here kind of people. Although I think they already existed back then, but you didn't really, I don't think people knew about it. At least I guess they didn't. Because these college professors are, your typical bumbling kind of college people. The main character is a history teacher that the local college chancellor doesn't like, and so he puts him on a ship and says, go find these other ships. And it's actually pretty compelling. He's a cool character. I picture him, if there was ever a movie based on this book, which there never would be, I could picture it being played by Rodney Dangerfield. That's just how I pictured him. Because it's a book that is equal parts humorous, horrifying, and really entertaining. It's just an excellent, excellent novel all around. And I don't know much about Doctor Who, but I get the basic plot of Doctor Who, where Doctor Who has to, fight the various big bads, but he can't actually hurt them in any way, so he kind of talks them to death. That's kind of what happens in this book. I kind of got a Doctor Who vibe from that. So it's definitely a book I really recommend. Now, as for a game that I recommend, ladies and gentlemen, The Outer Worlds. It came out last year, and I just now have finally gotten around to getting close to finishing it. I'm not finished with it yet, but I'm very close, and I gotta say, I have missed real RPGs. The Outer Worlds is a science fiction RPG set in the system called Halcyon, and you are the individual that has to either doom it or save it. It's better than Fallout New Vegas. It's basically, imagine a first-person BioWare game. A good BioWare game. It actually feels so much like a BioWare game that you could call it like the Orville of BioWare games. So if Ask Creed, Andromeda, not Ask Creed, Mass Effect, there we go, Andromeda. Imagine that as Star Trek Discovery. Imagine Outer Worlds as Orville. I want to say Obsidian. The writing, absolutely excellent. The partners, absolutely excellent. The combat, pretty fun. I mean, when it comes to RPGs like that, the combat really isn't that important because the idea is that you're supposed to use, dialogue options and things of that nature to avoid combat. And you can do that quite a bit, and it's really, really fun. The writing is just so good. Ugh. If you haven't played it, do play it, because it's good. It's actually not that well optimized, though. What's funny is I can play it 1080p, ultra everything, but with low shadows, and it runs 60 FPS. I can only assume the shadows aren't that well optimized, but it's still a really, really fun game. The only problem I have with it, really, is the art style. I'm going to eventually review Outer Worlds, but we'll get to that in a moment. The big problem I have is with the art style, and it's just too stylized. I would have preferred they had gone more of a realistic style, like with Fallout, just because it would be more immersive that way. But, that being said, it still works well enough. So, future reviews. Now, my whole review schedule has been completely messed up. It's completely, scrapped now, which really annoys me. Every time I come up with, a schedule that I'm going to finally stick to, something happens to ruin it. Without fail. Always happens. So, my tentative schedule is this. Doom Eternal next month. Followed by the big review of Turok 3, followed by a bunch of piddly crap, and then another big review, which is going to be Outer Worlds. That's going to take a long time to do, just because it's not that long. By my standards, it's not very long, but it's longer than, say, a first-person shooter. Because I want to do a big review of Outer Worlds, because it's just that good. Yes, this year there is going to be a big review of Alien Isolation sometime around October. And then there's going to be one final review this year, big review of Doom Eternal. And of course, starting sometime around October, there's going to start to be one big gun review each month as well. And I'm going to try to stick to that. There's also going to be a bunch of book reviews and stuff like that in between, and a bunch of little piddly crap reviews here and there. But it's just, the big problem is my whole schedule is kind of messed up just because of real life stuff, in addition to the fact that I also have to study for, my A+ certification and all the rest. I'm going to keep getting the videos out. I'm going to at least try to keep shooting for a stream every week. more than anything else. It's just time, life, wave your arms and shout. So let's see, what else we got? I suppose that's pretty much it. Outer Worlds, try it. If you can find a copy of Empire Rebellion, Honor Amongst Thieves, read it. It's so good. Even if you're not even a Star Wars fan, it's that good. And so, I'm GeneralLotz, wishing you good, Ruger, PC Carbine, and good, Palmetto State Armory AK. Yes, there's a video of that coming soon too. Well, whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this awesome content.